Hey everybody, welcome back to one of our grad interviews. Today we are interviewing Shelley, and we are just really excited to hear Shelley's story. She's a recent grad, and it's going to be so fun just to kind of hear somebody who's just graduated recently, and kind of what your experience has been. And so we are earlier than we normally do. Normally we're a little bit later. So for those of you who are maybe coming in to watch later, we just thank you for joining us. If this is your first grad interview or just any of your first live with Pretty Focus, maybe you just joined the roadmap, we'd love it if you would put that in the comments, and we'd also love to know where you're watching from, so we can connect with you. We love to see where everybody is at. So Shelley, why don't you go ahead and start and tell us when did you join Pretty Focus?
So I originally joined Pretty Focused. It was probably close to just about a year ago, actually. It was right
Okay.
around Christmas time, maybe just after Christmas, that I joined. I was working full time. So when I first started, I was really, like, when I say I was working full time, it was anywhere between 45 to 50 hours a week.
Oh man.
Um, I had a daughter that had just left to go off to school. So, yeah, this was kind of, I wanted to, kind of see if there was something else that would marry up very well with what I was currently doing at my job. Yeah, Pretty Focused kind of fit that bill.
What was
So
your
how
job? Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Stephanie.
No, I was wondering what your job was.
So my very last job that I had was working as a floor manager and a digital marketing manager for a car delership.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's funny because it's very different from what I did prior to having my daughter, but yeah, the marketing part of it kind of carried me through. So that's really what I've been doing for most of my life.
Okay. And so where were you when you heard about Pretty Focused? Or how did you hear about it, and what made you say, this is what I need to do? This is the
Well,
next step for me.
so when COVID hit, obviously that was a huge life
Mhm.
changer for the planet. So
Yeah.
yeah, just everyone.
Mhm.
So when COVID first hit, it was difficult because I have acute kidney disease.
Mm.
So what that meant was I was immediately sent home.
Okay.
And I was not allowed to go out for, I think it was the first time I got locked down, it was 9 weeks. So I wasn't allowed to leave the house for
Wow.
9 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. And unfortunately, working in automotive, it was considered, you know, uh, like the automotive dealership stayed open and everything surrounding that. And of course, we weren't really prepared at my job for me to not be there. So it required me to be there in person. And so when I first went into lockdown, my husband and I sat down and realized that there's a good chance that I'm never going to be able to go back to an office. Um, just because we didn't know what was going to
Yeah.
happen.
Right.
Uh, Now, a very good friend of mine actually took your course.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so she lives in town and she was very successfully working from home.
Wow.
And so I actually invited her over for supper, and the poor girl had no idea what was gonna hit her. I literally had a notepad and I had like 100 questions to ask her. I had done
Wow.
photography in the past. It's actually part of what I went to film school, so photography was part of that. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so when I sat her down and just asked her how she got started, and that's really how I started looking into this as an actual career.
Can you remember the questions that were like integral to you making the leap? You know, like what
Um,
you said that made you okay,
yes.
you know? Yeah.
So I wanted to know, like, honestly, I found it really, really hard to believe that you could make a living doing this.
Right.
Like I know,
Yeah.
and it,
Were
I
you like, how bloggers don't
yeah.
make money? How can you work for bloggers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really was, a lot of my questions were surrounding like, can you actually do this? Can you work from home? Can you earn money doing this? And bloggers, like it had never dawned on me. And it's funny because I cook all the time. So I use blogs constantly, like constantly. But I
Yeah.
had I just assumed they with an iPhone and they were taking pictures.
Oh,
Like
no.
I didn't know this was even an industry.
Mhm.
So yeah, a lot of my questions surrounded one, can this be a full-time gig? And number two, how much can you actually make? Like,
Yeah.
and where, and what do you need to get started? That was a huge thing too, because I didn't have a ton of equipment or, that kind of stuff. What was the bare minimum requirements to get started? And so she was very, very helpful.
Did you have a
That's
camera?
I did,
Okay.
yes. So, my husband and I, we take pictures on the side. We'd like to do photo walks. So yeah, I started off with a Canon Rebel.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
an older model, and I bought a 50 mil lens like right off the bat because
Yeah.
I that was necessary for me. But cripes, it was only like $100 for the lens, so really it wasn't much to get started.
Okay. So you started out with that Rebel. Have you
Yes,
upgraded or do you still use that Rebel?
I still use the Rebel.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
It's the SL2, so it's an
Okay.
old model.
Yeah.
Like
Have you
they don't make it anymore.
No, yeah, no, man. Um so in the questions that you asked, is this actually a thing? Which is a fair question because the
Mhm.
blogging industry is still in its infancy. It's
It really
fairly
is.
new. And so then just the thought of working for bloggers is just so strange to people. Like, you can do what? And
Mhm.
that's the question that I still get. Wait, you do what? And so, especially in my position now where I'm like, yeah, I teach people how to work for
Right.
bloggers. And they're like, I didn't even know you could work for bloggers, let alone teach people to work for them.
Exactly.
And so it was that, and then how much money you can make. And so you just sent me just an email. Can you tell
Yeah.
me, like, tell us can you tell them what you told me?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's of course my background is marketing, so I'm constantly watching my sales and movement
Sure.
online. But I graduated in October, the very, very end of October,
Okay.
or mid-October, somewhere in there.
October 2022, right?
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
So like 6 weeks ago, kind of
Right.
thing.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So of course I give myself monthly goals. And my first month, I was really easy on myself and I blew that goal out of the water. My second month, which I just finished, I gave my goal, what I was making at my last job. That was my goal. Can I make what I was making at my last job? And yes, I blew that goal out of the water.
Okay. What are your hours compared to your last job? Because
Okay, so I went from 45 hours on average a week to I'm now working just under 30. I
and
know.
you just started. I assume.
Yeah.
Are you at the top rate, or do you have some room there?
Oh no, I'm not the top rate. No, 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 no. I'm at the beginner level. So I would say it was higher than I expected. Like when I first put my things up for sale, I sold out like right away. Like I went to the bathroom and came back and everything was gone. Like it was crazy fast.
Those are my favorite stories.
I
love that.
know. And so I actually had a blogger reach out to me and say, okay, I just bought this, but I want you to know you're not charging enough.
Bless her heart.
Yeah. So I said, well, good for you on being one of the first. Like you got the cheap rate. And so I raised my rates like almost right away. And yeah, we're still trucking along.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Are you doing exclusives solely?
Solely.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say that. I do some semi-exclusives. So what I tend to base semi-exclusives on is if it's a trend. So if it's something that's trendy, that's kind of a flash in the pan, or something that's you know, kind of specific to a holiday, maybe I'll do a semi-exclusive on that. But I have yet to do a recreation.
Okay. So you're whether it's exclusive or semi, you're just developing content. I love that. So your strategy around semi-exclusives, because I do feel like the semis require some strategy to them.
They do. They really do. Some thought has to go into it.
Yep.
And you also have to make sure, like, it's not just, you know, switching out your background and your dishes, and, you know, it's not just that, but does what you're doing actually match, you know, kind of the food you're preparing, and, you know, how you're presenting it. Does it fit within the style and within the theme? Sometimes you only get, you know, one good idea that, right? Sometimes you just get one and you're done work at noon and you call it a day.
Yeah.
I love that you recognize that it's, you know, you're not just trying to crank it out and then perhaps be left with things unsold because it didn't make sense.
Well, and that's just it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny because the first semi-exclusive I did, they sold like right away, all of them, all 6.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And then you're like, woo!
Yeah. So I'm like, why am I not doing this for everyone? Right.
Right.
And so I started doing that, but then, you know, some sold, some didn't. And it didn't always make sense.
Right.
So you're learning really what makes sense.
That's right. Yeah.
So I mean, just through trial and error, you're like, okay, all of those sets didn't sell, and you're able to analyze. I mean, I think that's a great strength of yours. How, you know, coming in, you've got the marketing background, and, you know, I think that business mindset, you're able to come in and analyze why something's not selling, and then able to make those adjustments of, well, this type of recipe probably doesn't need 6, right?
That's exactly it. That's
right.
exactly
So
it.
Some recipes you can get away with more, and others
you just can't.
It's going to be less. Yeah. So I like how you're thinking through that and not just being like, well, guess I failed,
well.
you know, oh, well, I guess, you know, so I think that's really great. We always encourage students to be able to, you know, analyze, you know, and fix, you know, why something didn't sell, you know?
And I will say too, there's a few recipes that I've done that I was a little late to the game. Like Christmas is long gone for me.
Oh yeah.
You know, for all of us, really.
We moved on.
Yeah.
I saw Valentine's stuff
Christmas
the other day.
Oh yeah, I'm working on St. Patty's Day, you know, like we're well into the new year. But it's but I, you know, I'm also doing some of my Christmas baking that I would normally do at home. So I'm shooting that, editing that, and getting it ready for next year. So come August, then all I have to do is flip that switch, and it's online and it's ready to sell.
Wow.
But right now it's not ready. You know what I mean? Like it's just not the time.
You could probably even go quicker than August. I would test it out like
Really?
June. Yeah, I think so. I think bloggers so Christmas and Thanksgiving are typically the biggest times of year. And I think bloggers are always thinking about Q4 recipes. So yeah, except in Q4, like,
That's,
you know,
that's
right?
exactly it.
Yeah.
That's
So I
true.
think you
In
could
Q4,
try.
they're
You could definitely
past
test it. Yeah.
They
All
spend
right.
Q2 and Q3 thinking about Q4. So
Everyone's like so smart, and it is because you're basically paying yourself to make your Christmas baking. Like,
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because I don't have any children at home right now. You know, she's off to school, but I have the neighbor children, so I'm constantly outside asking them if everything tastes okay, if it looks okay.
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah. So yeah, there. I also have test subjects.
That's perfect. You got little recipe testers.
That's right.
Or tasters, I guess, taste
Tasters.
testers that you can
That are very, very honest. Always ask a kid.
Yeah.
They will tell you.
That's true.
I was just thinking about Christmas. My mind wandered. The other tip I would have for anyone who maybe isn't prepared to be as ambitious as Shelley and do their Christmas baking and photograph it is the day after Christmas, go in and pick up all the Christmas Hershey Kisses, M&Ms, all that stuff on sale, because come June, you're going to need it and you don't want to pay $22 a bag for, take it from me for some candy canes or whatever. Yeah. So
It's
definitely
true.
do it now or the day after Christmas.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so you had a friend who which congratulations, Elena, for joining Tier 3 last week. We're so excited for you. So you met with a friend. I feel like this is a very similar story because we have so many people who are like, that's how Kim and I got started. I think how Pretty Focus started. Kim was like, please tell me, how much money can I make? Well, like, what do I need to get started? So tell us, as far as like the gear goes, in your experience, what gear do you feel like beginners, the bare minimum, need to get started?
So you need a solid DSLR camera, minimum DSLR. You need a 50mm lens. That is, you need a very good tripod. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not super steady. So rather than, I like taking one photo, not 10 photos. So yeah, tripod is an absolute must, I think.
Okay.
Now, where I live, when I first got started in December, it was dark when I left for work and dark when I got home. That was this huge challenge for me. So I had to go artificial lighting immediately. Yeah. So there was, so if you are somewhere way up north like I am, and it's this time of year, you might need that. You might.
Okay. Yeah.
But other than that, that's it. A Facebook.
What about and Facebook?
Yes.
Kind of got to have that. So what about like styling supply wise?
So
like,
it's funny because when I first got started, so I did order one standard marble backdrop and then one subway tile, like just a plain white subway tile backdrop. It's still what I use 80% of the time today is that setup. So I did start off inexpensive with that and have since had to replace because they melt, the inexpensive ones. So I did go pricey on that. Other than that, literally dishes out of my cupboard. I borrowed all kinds of stuff. When people find out that you're doing what you're doing, they love to give you things.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I got dishes and cups and cutlery and everything. Just people were just handing them to me or loaning them to me or, that kind of thing. So when I got, kind of started in the early stages, really That was all I truly needed. I think it cost me, it was probably around 500 Canadian, 500 Canadian dollars. So around 350 US
Okay.
to get started.
Wow, that's not bad. And I would agree with you on the styling board. I have a styling board that I'm going to have to replace now because I have a trivet with little feet on it. And I did this stupid thing of like I had something on it and I was dragging it around the board. I was
Yeah,
like,
I get
oh
it.
my gosh, why did you just do that? Because some of the styling boards dent. So now I've got a dented styling board. So I do think that it is one of those things that you could probably spend a little bit more money on. And you probably want to because you use it all the time.
All the time.
All the
All
time.
the time. Yeah, it's funny. I just got a replacement for my marble like yesterday, which is so good. So I immediately stopped what I was doing and swapped it out because it's new and
Yes.
it's fun to use new stuff. So yeah, but I would say the backdrops, and it's funny because where I'm located, it's hard to get anything shipped to me.
Oh, okay.
A little bit remote, little bit. So yeah, it was tough to actually find what I was looking for in the beginning.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely I would say, especially if you're working, with any type of food that has to be shot warm, you're going to need a very good backdrop.
Yep. So you use that 80% of the time. What do you use the other 20% of the time?
So I have a variety of different backdrops, probably 10 or 15.
Okay.
I only go, it really, really depends on what I'm shooting. So, and it depends on the color of the food. If it's a lighter colored food, I can use a darker background and get away with it. But if it's a dark food, which most food is dark in color, then I'll use a lighter one.
Okay.
For things like Christmas shoots, it's great because I will pull out all sorts of different ones. Like I've got, pink and like a whitewash wood and a nice teal color, and all of those colors tend to, you can do something with them in the background.
Yeah. We always ask this question for just our sheer curiosity. Whenever you post things, like if you do a semi-exclusive and you have like the marble and like the dartboard, which one goes first?
Oh, marble. Yeah.
Okay. We
Hands down.
always ask this because we're so fascinated by marble and how popular it is. Oh, you're muted, Stephanie. That's why I keep talking over you.
It's been a shift though, right? Because I want to think like a couple years ago, it was hard to convince people to use marble, but I think people have seen great success shooting on white, and the industry has swung where
Yeah.
I think anyone investing could just get away with a good marble board for quite a while and not.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or white wood. Like I don't think there's the need to have, because the market's not as a whole, right? Not necessarily responding to other things. So why spend the money unless you have this big
Unless you
desire, right?
absolutely have to.
Yeah, or you
Exactly.
have some desire to have a collection. But if you're
That's
in
right.
as a business, it makes business sense, I think, for the most part.
Yeah. We always find that interesting.
Mm.
So you joined, if you joined in December, about 10 months to
It
graduate.
took me a while. Yeah.
I mean, you were working 55 hours a week. So the fact that you made it through in 10 months, I'm actually really impressed by that. No joke.
Yeah, it's funny because when it came down to doing the portfolio and starting the portfolio, I think I got started, and I want to say that I had a bit of a mental breakdown. Like, I can't do this. I can't, and
Oh my gosh, you're so close to the
I
end.
know. And it's funny because my poor husband, and God bless every pretty focused husband or wife that is out there. because it finally came down to my husband said, you know what, we know that this is what you're going to do. We've done the research, quit. So as I was going into my portfolio, I quit my job. And this is what I did full time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
wow, that's
my
like
portfolio went
a
really
fire.
fast.
Yeah.
And I had, because I was kind of sitting on my hands during the time that I handed in my portfolio, and when I had the chat with Kim, there was, you know, a 2-week period in there. So I just started shooting inventory basically.
Oh my goodness.
Love
so
it.
smart.
Yeah.
So
So
smart. Don't put your camera down. Like when you're waiting,
never.
if you're like waiting for that time to, did you go through your portfolio with review with Kim or with Tia?
With Kim.
Okay. Okay. So it was probably there. So when you're waiting in that, like, do not put your camera down.
Don't.
Because your quality will increase from the first recipe you shoot for your portfolio to the last recipe you shoot for your portfolio. And then like if you keep going, like first of all, you're ready to go. You're continuing to sharpen your skills because the more photos you take, the better that you get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I think that's so smart that you're just like, I'm just going to start shooting inventory. I'm just going to start.
Yeah.
So that is phenomenal. I love
and
that.
I will say, like, there's a huge difference between what I'm shooting now 6 weeks later and what I was doing at the beginning of my portfolio.
I was going to ask you that if you had seen a difference in 6 weeks, because we often talk to people who are like a year in, and, you know, of course, a year from now, you're going to be like, I have to go update my portfolio, right?
Well, and that's just it. And it's funny because I did one shoot kind of in between, like while Kim was reviewing my portfolio. And I was so proud of it at the time. I was so proud. I showed everyone, strangers. I showed strangers. And I look at it now, and it's funny because I had it up for sale and I took it down. Like, I cannot sell that. It was terrible. Like, I was so proud of it at the time, but now I look at it and go, oh no, that's not the quality of work that I do.
Yeah. I mean, food bloggers go through that too. Like
everybody goes through that.
You'll find something on your website. You're like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, Stephanie, you and I have done that.
Oh yeah. We're like, you'll be like, what were we doing?
Blackberry cobbler.
Yeah. You're like, what were we doing? I'm like, we didn't know any better.
Well,
we were
doing
doing
the best that you could with what you had.
Yeah. So, I mean, the good thing for you guys is that bloggers are finding these kinds of posts because it's right? As soon as I get my website up to date, I'll be shooting the stuff that was like, you know, going for its third reshoot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I have to say too, like some of the stuff that I was doing changed when I actually saw my photos being used. So when I saw them on the blog, I realized that I was missing, you know, there was a couple of shots that just would have been more interesting if I had maybe tightened up on a few things or if I had added something to the shoot. And it's funny, I only saw my first shoot that was posted because my aunt shared it and she didn't know it was me.
Stop.
Yeah. And of course, I didn't want to tell her because I'm like, oh, I can't tell you. So I'm like private messaging her going, if you want this recipe, I have it.
You're like, I did that.
I did that. That was
awesome.
What? That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Out of all the blogs, right? Because there's so many blogs out there out of all the ones she
shares. And it's funny because it's for you. She always shares this particular blog, and this particular blog happens to be a very good customer. So yeah, it was just, I knew it was a matter of time, but yeah, she started sharing my recipes.
That's incredible.
Uh-huh.
So I think the more we talk to grads and, you know, I hear the stories, just the more and more impressed I get with you guys continuing to have like the discipline and the willpower to continue to go through an entire program and graduate, because the amount of people to go through like that, I'm always so impressed. I'm like, man, just look at our grads. Like, you know, I use you guys for inspiration in my own life. I'm like, look at all these people who've gone through and they've graduated. You know, you can do this hard thing, Melody, because they've done it over there. So what, like, when you were going through it and you're working full time, this is very, I'm sure, had some overwhelming times. And so what kept you going? What kept you motivated?
You know what? Just, I think one of the first things I did before I even started Pretty Focused was actually sat down and figured out what it was exactly that I wanted out of a job. So I basically did a reverse job interview. What was I looking for? And so I had to keep that list kind of in my head as you're going along. Like, okay, we're working towards a much shorter work week, and we're working towards, because time was what I wanted. I wanted time, more time. And I wanted to be able to, you know, be with my daughter when she moved to college. And I wanted, you know, there were so many things that I wanted a job to give me. And so when you're busting your butt trying to get through this on top of working full time, just remember that at some point, this is going to come to a head. And this is you're going to end up in a job that, number one, will give you all the time you need, but is also like fulfilling and interesting and different every day. So as long as you can keep that thought into your head, you're going to get through it.
How many times did you have to go back to your why? Like, you know, like you have that, did you did you write that list, stick it on the refrigerator and be like, like, this is my why. This is what I'm working for. This is what I'm doing.
So I have a whiteboard in my office, and my why was always on my whiteboard. Sometimes it was every single day. Like sometimes it was 2 or 3 times a day, right? It depends, because not every recipe goes to plan. Sometimes you have bad days, you know? So yeah, sometimes you need that note more often than you think. But I would say at least every day that I left work and it was dark out, I needed that reminder.
So what was it that you exactly wrote on your whiteboard?
So I wrote, today you're going to kick some ass.
Love it.
Tomorrow you'll get the day off.
Oh, I love it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So work for it, right?
Work for it.
That's what, and that's what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
it does pay off. It really, really does.
That's wonderful. I love that. I love that so much. So we have a question, just a couple of questions from people. One of them wanted to know, and I think this is a great question for all creatives, and certainly for somebody, you know, who you've been around marketing, you've been around design for a while, you know that when the creativity feels depleted, I'm sure you know what that feeling is. So how do you find inspiration for creating recipes? Okay,
so I have a marketing background, and I am very much a keyword girl, and I like looking at the top keywords for searches on Google. That will generally get me started. So seeing what people are searching for, what people are looking at doing, that will get me started, number one. Then I go to old school cookbooks. So I don't know if anyone has like old, like used bookstores, or, you know, Salvation Army, or, you know, Goodwill, that kind of thing. go buy cookbooks, old cookbooks prior to the 70s, and they're generally not like, you can, let's just say the copyright is generally run out by then, so they're a little safer to use. So yeah, and I'll go to my old school cookbooks, my grandma's cookbooks, and just start flipping. Something generally will come to me. Sometimes
That's a great idea.
yeah, sometimes I have to make a potluck or something, and that determines what I'm making.
Love that too.
Yeah, like
Right?
if there's an event, or if it's like this weekend is my daughter's birthday, so she has asked for stuffed cupcakes. So that
Okay.
is one of my shoots this week, is a
So smart.
Buckeye stuffed cupcake.
So smart.
Yeah.
So you're in Canada.
Yes.
So this concept of middle America dishes,
Hmm.
how foreign is that to you, or do you feel comfortable with that?
I'm actually pretty good with that.
Okay.
So I find how I usually uh, do my recipes is, if it looks good, add, extra cheese. So to me, middle America is extra cheese and extra mayo, and extra marshmallow. I find they really like marshmallow.
That's great. I love that. Because
um,
I know, we have some people that are like, what, middle America? What do you mean by that? And what is that, how do you even go about that? So I'm
but
always so
I have
curious.
to thank whoever came up with like pot roast. I did a Mississippi pot roast, and it is
Yes.
amazing. Okay, if you haven't made a Mississippi pot roast, you all should make one, because they're fantastic.
I
And
just
that
saw
is,
somebody do it the other day and I've never done it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to try it at least once in my life.
oh yeah, it's so good. And that's something I had never heard of.
Mhm.
But I also find too, like I talk to people a lot about what I do, just because a lot of people ask me questions about what I do for a living. And a lot of people give me recipes or give me ideas.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, oh, I was going to
Go
say,
ahead,
like,
Stephanie.
as someone who also does not live, so I'm in Canada as well, in middle America, if I go to any event where the hostess is, say, in her senior years, typically there's some really good middle America vlog inspiration there.
Oh,
Just taking
absolutely.
taking
Yeah.
pictures and notes.
Yes, all the I just sent my stepmother a note, and I'm like, I need your recipe for fruit cake because we
Yeah.
don't have one. I know my dad loves it. All the aunts and uncles love it. Like, it will be perfect. So, like, if you go to like church events,
Oh,
anything
yeah.
like birthday, anywhere there's a potluck, those are really good inspiration too.
Well, and it's funny too, because most churches, at least where I live, they put out cookbooks, right?
Mhm.
So you can get a ton of ideas
Yeah.
from stuff like that.
Yeah, and sometimes like modernize it, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I tend to leave out like shortening and stuff now and
Well, and it's funny, my grandmother has a cookbook that is held together kind of by duct tape, one of those that's been used and used and used. 90% of the recipes have an ingredient of suet. Have you ever
What?
heard
stuff.
have you
is
ever
that?
heard of suet? Okay, it's like a bacon grease. It's like a
Oh,
lard almost.
Oh, like I've heard of oleo, I think, but not suet.
Suet, yes. And so
Wow.
it's funny because some of the so there's where I live, because it's an old farming community. So once a year you can find suet at the grocery store, and they sell it by the pail. Yeah, so suet.
That's so interesting to me.
Yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh.
having to modernize that,
Sure.
just
Yep.
it's a great base. It gets you started.
Yep.
Um, and usually when I'm doing an exclusive, I do it at least twice in the kitchen, if not 3 times, right? Just to make sure that you've got it.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah, so those old cookbooks, definitely a good source of inspiration.
Yeah. So, what does your week look like then? If you're testing recipes a couple of different times, which we always encourage people to test recipes
Yes.
before they photograph and sell them. So what does your week look like then?
So usually from Monday to Thursday, I will shoot one recipe, at least one every day.
Okay.
So I'm an early riser. I'm farm girl. So I wake up at, between 5 and 6. I'm usually done my shoot at around noon to 1 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And then I will do a practice recipe in the afternoon. Then Fridays. So the way I work is more factory style, I guess. So I will shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and I will edit one day a week.
Okay.
Yeah. So I shoot and cull my images at the same time. So I shoot tethered.
Okay.
So as I'm going through, my photos are automatically brought into Photo Mechanic, and that's what I use.
Perfect.
And I cull my images just as I'm going along. So I know exactly, like I've already chosen my photos. And then on Friday morning, I wake up and I generally do my editing and posting to my website.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And then Monday morning, it all goes on sale. And the Pretty Focused Buyers Club, and then that's it. So, and I restart that week.
And then you restart. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We were just talking today in our coaches meeting about when you tether into Lightroom. So do you tether with Lightroom or EOS?
I don't, because it's a really quirky, I find, tethering directly into Lightroom.
Oh, and if you have an older camera, that would probably.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because if you tether directly into Lightroom, you can put your preset on import. So you take the picture and it edits right there in Lightroom. So we're talking about that, just like a quick time saver. But if you're working, if it's quirky, then it's not a time saver, right? Then it just takes more time. So Joanne wants to know, how are you delivering your images to clients then?
Okay. So, I package all my images into one folder along with the recipe. All of my images are available. So I will compress that. I'll zip it, and then I upload it to my website. So when someone makes a purchase, they actually purchase on my website, and then the images are automatically downloaded.
Oh, that's perfect.
And I use Shopify.
Okay. That's great. What percentage of bloggers would you say purchase vegan, vegetarian, or gluten-free recipes? Because do you cater to any specific diet?
No, I do not. Everything I do has lots of fat and sugar and calories, and unfortunately, so vegetarian? No, I'm afraid we're not vegetarian here. Now I have a friend who lives in my town who's going through Pretty Focused as well.
Oh, yay!
You guys are like paying it forward.
Oh my goodness. You know what? There's actually someone else starting in January, another friend of mine. So I figure we're going to take over.
Yes.
Like, we're going to have this whole empire in Tilsonburg of food photographers.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh. I used to live like 15 minutes. As you're talking, Shelley, I totally dawned on me who's your friend and everything. I was like, it's just slow. And I was like, oh, I used to live like 15 minutes from them. We could like set up a little studio and
that would be so fun. We would get nothing done.
Conquer the world.
Oh, it's so fun. I love it.
I have thoughts on that, Melody, that question.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, so I would encourage anyone starting off not to niche, whichever country you're from, not to niche yourself down into saying you're vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, any of that when you first start. I think you want to not give people any reason not to work with you. So if you're doing, if you're selling, you want to sell your own recipes, just make those, but like make like a what, like cocktails or side dishes, like make things that people would eat regardless of that dietary restriction. Because we have talked about, we interviewed Addie, and Addie's not vegan or vegetarian, but she has blogger clients who are, and she does the baked goods for them, or it could be a vice versa. And so I would say, think outside the box, and then over time, you're going to get better, right? I'm sure Shelley can attest to this. Like, even in 6 weeks, like, over time, you're going to get better, and your name's going to get out there, and you're going to eventually connect with your ideal clients. Like, if you want to do strictly like vegan and, food substitution, all that, you'll get there. But I think out of the gate, can you put you in a box and limit you while you're waiting for those bloggers to come along? Because think in society, right? The percentage of vegans to the percentage of people alive in the United States versus, so bloggers the same, it's going to be much smaller. So if you can appeal to a mass market and not box yourself in the beginning, you'll have a way more, I think, successful business out of the gate. And then you can refine it, and then you can get rid of clients that aren't your ideal, and be left with the main ones.
Yeah. And of course we have to say, if you're gluten-free because of a severe allergy, obviously don't put yourself in that situation.
Yeah. And
obviously don't do that. But, if it's like you can touch gluten, but you just don't prefer to eat it, then you've got neighborhood kids who will.
Yeah. Or like, if you're vegan, I'm not expecting you to make hamburgers, like make sweet potato casserole, like pies, and like, right. Like, I just kind of think creatively for a little while till you get you're established. I think also a lot of vegan bloggers and are really high-end photography, like that really I want to say high-end, because I mean we're all working with pretty top tier bloggers, but I would say more editorial style, and the journey to getting there quality wise might take you a little while depending on where you are when you start. So that is another thing to keep in mind.
So Shelley, I have a question for you. This was not in our list of questions, but for those who might be watching this and this is their very first interaction with Pretty Focused, what is Pretty Focused?
So it's funny, because when I first started out, I would have said that Pretty Focused is a teaching tool. But I don't feel that way anymore. Don't get me wrong. It's a very good teaching tool. But it's a community, actually. To me, Pretty Focused is a community of all like-minded individuals. We all have the same goal, even though we're all over the world. We all have the same goal. We all want each other to succeed. And hearing, there were times where just you're having a bad day, or just for lack of a better word, like shit just happens. And sometimes you really need someone and a stranger to tell you that you're doing great and keep up the good work. And that's what Pretty Focus gave to me, was that community of like-minded individuals. I certainly wouldn't have thought to do this as a career on my own. Like it wouldn't have even dawned on me. So that community helped with all of that.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love that. I love it.
I
I
love
think
that we're still hearing that, because we have
yes.
grown. Like, it's easy to say that when there were 30 people in the group, right?
Oh yeah.
But to still have that feeling, um, you know, 5 years later is amazing. And
Yeah.
I want to thank our coaches for that too, because I think they do a really good job of, keeping it really safe and, place that people can go to.
Yes, absolutely. And then for those who are thinking about joining, what advice do you have for them?
So I would say it's funny because I thought about this question a lot. Any advice that I would have for folks getting into it? Number one, I have to say I was really, really happy to be part of the Buyers Club.
Mhm.
To me, that was vital to succeeding. Just because I didn't know the marketplace very
Mhm.
well.
Right.
So that was one. Number two, I would say, like, don't be afraid to think outside the box. There are millions of people online, and it's there's always going to be someone who likes what you're doing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I love that. There
Mhm.
are lots of people out there. And our goal is to be able to find, to connect photographers with their ideal clients. That's why we have the Buyers Club, right? And to provide, bloggers with a wide range of photographers, right? Where there's every photographer, we kind of teach like some of the basics that are the same, but we want all of the photographers to add in their own personality and their own style and their own flair, because you are, what makes you are what make you yourself marketable. Did I say that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Right? It's
Yeah.
you, Shelley. You're the marketable one, right? Like you
Yes.
and your creative eye and your creative ability is what makes your work stand apart. It's you. And I think sometimes we forget that it's us as individuals, right? That kind of makes
That's
our work
right.
stand out. And it's okay to branch out. It's okay to put your own flair and your own style to it. And so we have one last.
We hit
Oh,
the.
you already put that up. I'm
Yeah,
so
I didn't know if
sorry.
you saw it. No.
We have one last question,
Yeah.
Stephanie.
Yes, I got my calculator out.
Okay.
So I would say for us, this is always the difficult question because we're not an MLM, we're not a union. Like, you guys don't work for us, you operate your own businesses, but we do our best because we want to know that people are hitting their financial goals, and we want to be able to look people in the face and say, like, this is what you can make. So here's what I do know. So we know when we survey grads in 2021 that 50% of the grads who said they're working full time said they made $50,000 or more. So I would say, if we were saying average, like maybe that's like the median, and like not the average, but 50% are working full time, making 50,000 or more. And then there was a 13.6% who are making 100,000 or more. They will not be the average. They are going to be people who are full time, super strategic, might have someone to come in to help them do either editing or washing dishes. Like, they're really focused on business building in a different way. So I don't want to put that out there as being the average, but I think 50,000, I wouldn't even blink saying that. And I think, like, we've talked to Redonda, who only does recreations, who's heading towards the 100K mark. Like, it will depend on the amount of time you want to work, right? Like, some people only want to work 10 hours a week. So it's going to be depend on that. And it's going to depend on your skill. So for someone like Shelley, 6 weeks in, I would, if we talk to you a year from now, I would hope that you're going to be charging $100 more, right? Like it's only going to,
yes.
right? Like it's so it would depend on your skill. Whereas, and also Shelley more learning how to use her camera. Then we have some people who come in or who have been wedding photographers for a decade, right? Who are going to be able to leapfrog a little bit. But those I would say, so 50,000 is per year. So I want to make sure that's clear, not 50,000 a month. That would be amazing. And we did have someone who made 25,000 in 1 month. Can you imagine, Shelley?
Oh my gosh.
She basically is
Didn't
a
sleep.
workaholic though, and just went hard for a month and made $25,000 to like pay for a kitchen rental or something, right? But you start to do the math on what that takes. That is hard work.
It's hard work, but it just shows you what's possible.
Right. Yes.
It absolutely
had a
is
goal,
possible,
right?
yes.
She's like, let's pay for this kitchen reno. Right. So 50,000 a year, if we're saying that's the middle, that's about, this is US dollars, $1,000 a week ish, right? And then it just depends. Like think like if you're how many exclusives would you do a week, Shelley?
So I do 4.
Right.
Okay.
So right, if you're doing 4 and you're charging, let's say low end 275, that's 1,100 a week. If you're doing 4 and you're high end, what, 400? That's 1,600 a week. So I mean, you can start to get in. We have grads who easily make 2,000 a week. Like, you know, semi-exclusives. Like it's math. Once you graduate, really, right? Like
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Now I'll say, I know I'm only like 6 weeks in, so it's hard because I have no history.
Yeah.
But based on my 6-week, history,
Right.
I'm on track to make 65,000 US this year, or this coming year.
Right. If you stayed, you did not raise your prices, you did not
just doing what I'm doing now.
Right. Yeah. That's which, I mean, we love a Canadian dollar right now.
I know. I don't want to rub it in, but it's so much better than that when you convert it into Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
I just think, Stephanie, like,
I know.
Do you remember when we started this in 2017? And we were like,
in this room on the couch and said, could we tell people they could make $65 a post? And we're nervous to say $65.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So that's how far it's come. So it's incredible.
It's come so far, but and just to hear like, oh yeah, I can make 65,000. Like and it's like, Shelley, it's within 6 weeks of graduating. Do you know what I mean? Like this isn't like, oh, it took me 5 years to build my business. Oh my gosh, I built a business and, they say like, you're profitable like in year 3 or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think of how quickly you're profitable.
I will say it was so fast that my accountant thought I had screwed up. Like my bookkeeping, thought I had done it wrong. Because he just couldn't imagine that, and then he told me that I had to start spending some money on props and, start.
Yes, right. Oh, I love it when they tell you that.
I love it when they give you permission.
You're like, what can I make as a business expense? Like
all of it. All of it.
Yeah.
I started going for manicures, right?
That's right. You have to have nice nails.
This depends on where you live, everyone. Okay. Not accounting advice. That's not tax deductible everywhere.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, it's just, I'm so blown away. I'm so inspired. It's so encouraging just to see where you were just a year ago and where you are now, where you just took the leap before even your portfolio was submitted. And hopefully you haven't looked back.
No, I haven't. I was, very, very scared when I finally quit.
Yeah.
Now, keep in
Understandable.
mind, like my job knew that what I was doing. They knew that I was working towards it. But again, so many people think that you can't make a living. Like they,
Mm-hmm.
even now, like my mom thinks I have this great hobby that, that pays me sometimes, right? Like,
Oh, they're
um,
like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Shelley, that's so cute. She's gonna be a photographer."
yeah.
Right.
And when
That's
I
so nice.
left, there was a lot of, if you ever want to come back, the door is always open for you. And I'm like, no, thanks. Like,
Sorry, suckers.
Yeah.
I'm going to let that hit my ass on the way out.
When we moved here 6 years ago, um, there was some local businessman who was really like, he really put us down, and he had like a restaurant and a retail store, and like put our business down, which is food blogs. And 6 years later, who's living her best life and who does not have a restaurant or a right, like a not that
Wow.
I'm happy for him, but to say like this is legitimate, like,
It really,
and
really
people do
is.
not understand.
No,
Yeah.
no. And it's funny when you tell people like that you're doing food photography, um, they generally think, oh, you shoot menus,
Or go to a restaurant. Yeah, people
Yeah.
always think I'm a when, I rarely say what I do because it's just too much to explain to people, but they always think I'm gonna go to a restaurant and review it. Do you get
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Oh.
No. Well, it's funny because I do review every restaurant that I go to.
Right. We will not have sales on the course, um, but we do have a pay in full bonus. So for anyone who enters tier 3, which is what Shelley did, which
Mhm.
has the oh my gosh, my
The highest,
brain just flew right
I
out
don't
of
know,
my
the
head.
highest return for your investment? Is that where you're
Yeah.
going?
Yeah,
All
no, I
the
was gonna say,
coaching,
which
the
like has the
portfolio review,
buyers
the
club,
buyers club. Yeah.
coaching, like all that is tier 3. We do offer pay in full bonuses, so that I'd say is where you should look um to see. So we are giving away the artificial lighting class to everyone, little sneak peek. And then
Yes.
there'll be some also pay in full bonuses. So keep an eye out for that. But the course itself doesn't get discounted, right?
Mm-mm.
I think it just doesn't. It's we really believe in it and would rather offer you guys value than
Yep.
discount the opportunity. So, but there are good things coming.
Yeah. So we have an info session coming up on Tuesday where we're really going to pull apart exclusives, semi-exclusives, recreations, what that looks like, the gear that you need to get started. Basically, all the questions that Shelley had when she started, we're going to sit down with you and have that exact same conversation and answer all of those questions with you. So come with your questions. Come prepared to learn. And Shelley, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story with us. When I got your email last week, I just, we share our wins with our whole team, but Stephanie and I just took a minute to celebrate that like privately, because that just meant so much to us in your story. So thank you so much for just reaching out and sharing that with us privately. But we're so excited for you. We can't wait to see. It's only been 6 weeks, and
I
we can't
know.
wait to see what the next 6 years have for you, right? It's going to be so
Oh,
exciting.
we'll check in for
So
sure.
yes. So you guys make sure that you stay around so you can see Shelley, right? And see where
Yeah.
she is soon. And then hopefully you will be in Shelley's position here really
That's right.
soon too. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.